And while we seek zero emissions, but that firm base power, reliable power, do you accept that many voters are increasingly open to the idea of nuclear as being put forward by Mr Dutton?
Well, I think many voters have been waiting for the detail from Peter Dutton and they just haven't got it. So we're still waiting for details about cost, details about location. But, my objection to nuclear, Kieran, isn't an ideological objection. It's just a practical objection. No sensible person says that we can build these within the next 15 years. And every sensible person says that they will be the most expensive form of power that we could be adding into the grid. So the question for the opposition is, are we going to stop with our plans to add more renewables to the grid for something that is at least 15 years away, is very expensive and has a lot of implementation risks between now and then? The practical and sensible answer to that question is no. We have to press ahead with renewables for that simple, practical, pragmatic reason.
Yeah, well, the argument is you could do both. You can do renewables as well as you can, but then also at least look at the merits of the other option. The government's not even lifting the ban.
Well, if you did both, remember our plan is to make sure that we put in renewables as fast as we can. So if we were going to put in both nuclear and renewables, that nuclear power wouldn't begin for another 15 years. It would be the most expensive form of power. It would require massive public subsidies. And we await the details from Peter Dutton about the size of those subsidies and the cost of that nuclear power. But as recently as this week, confirmed by the energy market authorities, this will be the most expensive form of power we could add to the grid. So it would be a massive diversion of public money to do both. Yeah. It wouldn't help us in the next 2 decades to do both. And it would be a big waste of the effort that we're all putting into renewables and the sensible clean energy transition.
Should there be more, let's look at the International Criminal Court referral of, they're seeking to have arrest warrants for 3 Hamas terrorists, the Israeli Prime Minister and Israeli Defence Minister. The moral equivalence here has been rejected by all and sundry, I think. It's certainly the Minister Ed Husic today said that. He rejects that moral equivalence, but he's also staggered by the coalition's suggestion we should withdraw from the ICC if they go ahead with these arrest warrants. Why shouldn't we withdraw, given they have made this equivalence between the terrorists and the leaders of a democracy?
Well, Kieran, I actually found Peter Dutton's suggestion that we should withdraw from the ICC to be really disturbing today. It's got echoes of Trump in it. The idea that if we don't agree with an institution, we should trash it, I think is a terrible mistake for Australia and a terrible mistake for the world. The ICC has an important role to play in upholding international law. It has been in operation for decades. And the suggestion that we should trash it or leave it because we don't agree with it, I think is a mistaken approach to international institutions. At this time in the world, we need to be supporting these types of institutions. It doesn't mean we can't disagree with them, but it means that when we disagree with them, we don't delegitimise them. And it makes me very concerned for Australia. Like, what would Peter Dutton do with other institutions
on this case?
What if he disagreed with the United Nations? What if he disagreed with an Australian court? So I find this approach extremely worrying in terms of a way that he would deal with institutions, both international and domestic. In terms of this particular case, the government has said that we're not going to comment on a particular case that is underway at the moment. What we have said is that the government supports the application of international law. We have consistently called, in the case of this conflict, for civilians to be protected and for international law to be upheld and for humanitarian assistance to be provided. And I think that's the right line.
Andrew Charlton, we're out of time. I'll talk to you soon.